Raymond McCune stepped to the podium and unleashed 3 decades of livestock cadence without warning.
50 billion for the trade corridor, now 55. Do I hear 60? 60 billion on the floor.
The phoneme density. This can't be standard diplomatic speech.
The translation array, designed for a maximum of 90 syllables per minute, screamed into cascading failure, lights flickering red.
The translation core is overheating. All channels are failing.
One of the junior aides crumpled to the floor, sensory circuits fried.
This sound, it's like a physical pressure inside my skull, a sonic weapon.
The summit hall dissolved into pandemonium as the human voice continued its relentless assault. Alien delegates clutching their heads. He showed no sign of stopping. The auctioneer's rhythm building like a freight train, hammering words faster than their machines could parse. 47 minutes earlier, the human delegation was preparing for a routine trade summit.
The Valyrian language processor has a hard limit of 90 syllables per minute. Their entire diplomatic protocol is built on that figure.
Humph. I've ordered coffee faster than that.
This isn't a joke, Raymond. If the translator array overloads, it could cause auditory damage to the delegates. They could take it as an attack.
Raymond twirled his gavel idly, a smirk hidden beneath his mustache. Janine was good at her job, but she'd never seen an auction barn.
Sometimes you gotta rattle the gate to get the herd moving.
His tablet chimed a priority dispatch from the State Department. Use full pace. Break the deadlock. T.
Guess the brass back home got tired of waiting too.
He slipped the gavel into his jacket, the same way he'd done before 1,000 auctions.
All right, boys and girls, let's see how you handle a real sale.
Raymond McCune stood, straightened his bolo tie, and walked out to meet the aliens. His voice locked and loaded. The Valyrian station corridor stretched ahead in shades of violet and silver, every alien drifting past at the pace of a contemplative hymn.
I've seen molasses move quicker. No wonder this summit's been stalled 18 months.
They entered the Grand Summit Hall. A holographic star map rotated silently above hundreds of delegates, and the air hummed with the absence of urgency.
On behalf of the Valyrian Compact, we extend a ceremonial greeting.
At this rate, we'll be here till the cows come home. Then we'll auction them off too.
Where next? Raymond, remember, deliberate pace. They process language differently.
The human podium stood empty, Earth's insignia catching the light, waiting for the man who would turn diplomacy into a sonic weapon.
We welcome the human delegation to address this assembly.
Raymond's hand slid into his jacket, fingers curling around the worn handle of his auctioneer's gavel. Janine mouthed the words, slow and steady, but Raymond was already calculating the beat of a 300-head cattle sale. Raymond McCune rose from his seat, the weight of his gavel a familiar comfort against his ribs, and walked toward the circular dais.
This is just like the ring back home. Same rhythm, different herd.
Janine pressed her hands together under the table, a silent prayer that the old cowboy would stick to the agreed script.
Distinguished delegates, on behalf of Earth, I thank the Valyrian Compact for convening this crucial trade summit.
Then, without pausing for breath, his voice shifted into a higher register, syllables tumbling out like a timed auction.
We've got trade routes, mining rights, shipping concessions on the block. Who'll give me 50 billion to start the bidding?
The Valyrian translation array, calibrated for 90 syllables a minute, screamed silently as input quadrupled beyond its design.
The acoustic density is exceeding all parameters. This can't be a standard diplomatic address.
Vex Core furrowed his brow, the translator earpiece feeding him a garbled rush that ached inside his skull. And still the human's voice climbed, weaving livestock cadence into treaty clauses, a sonic freight train aimed at baffled alien ears.
60, 65, 70 billion, now 75. Do I hear 80 billion on the table?
The buffer is overflowing. It's processing only fragments, garbled fragments. These signals don't correspond to any known pattern.
What is this? A rhythmic assault. The pattern is too fast, too insistent. It's not language, it's pressure.
The Valyrian translation array built for a serene 90 syllables per minute, now choked on 360, 4 times its capacity.
Core temperature critical, shutting down non-essential channels, but the input won't stop. It's like a flood.
That's it. Keep the beat. Don't let up. A fast sale is a good sale.
Raymond McCune's voice never wavered. He'd sold 10,000 head of cattle. A trade summit was just another ring.
My own translator is failing. The sound is distorting into a single piercing tone. A weapon.
Delegate Vex Core. The array cannot sustain this. It will suffer permanent damage.
Warning lights bathed Vex Core in crimson. As the Master Console's emergency protocols kicked in, the diplomatic core was going dark. Vex Core's translator fed him only shrieking static now, a blitz that scraped his auditory nerves raw.
This is no glitch. The rhythm is too deliberate. They're attacking us with sound.
Across the hall, Valyrian delegates clutched their heads, some staggering as if struck by a physical blow.
I've studied human warfare. They used sonic weapons centuries ago. Now they've weaponized speech itself.
Silvar's console erupted in sparks. The translation core burnt, confirming the assault was overwhelming.
They're assaulting us. A linguistic strike. The humans are attacking the summit.
Vex Core's voice cracked as he broadcast the warning, hands pressed against his temples, eyes crossing from trauma.
We walked into a trap. 18 months of negotiations, and this was their plan.
The summit hall had become a battlefield of sound, with Earth's Auctioneer the unrelenting aggressor. Convinced of the attack, Vex Core braced himself for the next phase, whatever the humans had planned.
The core is breaching. Evacuate the translator bay.
Thick, acrid smoke poured from Silvar's shattered console as 2 junior aides collapsed simultaneously, their sensory organs overloaded. Raymond, feeling the rhythm surging through him, struck the gavel and raised the stakes.
I hear 50 billion credits for the Sol Valyrian trade route. Do I hear 55, 55, now 60?
To the Valyrian delegation, the broken translators spat out only one phrase: human demands assets.
He's auctioning our entire trade infrastructure, the shipyards, the mining colonies.
The auctioneer's chant became a demand for surrender, rendered in real time, each bid another concession.
Delegate Vex Core. Our systems interpret this as a forced sale. They are claiming our fleet.
We cannot withstand this. Every second we hesitate, the terms worsen.
The misunderstanding was complete. In the human's rapid cadence, Vex Core heard only an ultimatum. The relentless syllables triggered a diagnostic embedded in Vex Core's implant: auditory saturation trauma.
If exposure continues, permanent neural damage is inevitable. We're facing a weaponized language.
The medical alarm confirmed his darkest fear. This was no malfunction, but a deliberate assault designed to incapacitate the entire delegation.
Initiate emergency surrender protocol. We cannot risk the High Command being neutralized.
His gloved hand slammed the emergency console, sending a priority signal that overrode every standard diplomatic safeguard.
Delegate Vex Core. The compact will interpret this as full capitulation. Are you certain?
Certainty is irrelevant. We face annihilation by voice. Transmit the surrender before we lose all command.
The surrender beacon pulsed through the station, emergency override codes flooding every Valyrian channel in the sector. Across the hall, Valyrian officers stared at their consoles in disbelief as the preemptive capitulation order cascaded through the fleet. The auctioneer's chant had become the trigger for a diplomatic catastrophe that Vex Core chose to end at any cost. The Valyrian aides, half-deafened but obedient, began drafting the terms of unconditional surrender at Vex Core's strained command.
The trade corridor, the Zelax mining cluster, the entire commercial fleet. Approve all of it.
The holographic document flickered into life above the council, each clause a concession Earth had never demanded. Raymond McCune brought the gavel down one final time, satisfaction settling on his weathered face.
A good sale. They caught on fast.
Raymond, look. The Velirin are sending a formal treaty. Something is very wrong.
Janine rose from her seat, eyes darting between the podium and the swirling chaos of the Velirin delegation. The surrender document solidified, its glowing text unmistakable even from across the hall. She rushed toward the podium, heart hammering, desperate to warn Raymond before the humans acknowledged what they hadn't fought for. Earth had won a war. It never knew it started, and the prize was the entire Velirin trade fleet. On the main display, the holographic surrender terms materialized in stark, undeniable glyphs, every clause a capitulation.
Unconditional surrender of all trade corridors, mining systems, and the entire commercial fleet. This is a full capitulation.
The Earth delegation froze, mouths agog, staring at the document that had rewritten the balance of power without a single shot.
Well, they seem like fast bidders. Didn't even need a second call.
Across the hall, Vex Core slumped against his console, the last of his strength spent on the surrender that would haunt his people for generations. Then, someone in the Earth delegation laughed. A bewildered, disbelieving laugh that sparked a wave of incredulous cheers.
Raymond, do you understand what just happened? You didn't just negotiate. You auctioned off their entire civilization.
The holographic treaty sealed the theft of a century. A victory so absurd that no one on Earth would believe it without the footage.
I just sold cattle, Janine. Reckon they got confused by the pace.
The summit had ended in 47 minutes, not with negotiation, but with a gavel strike, and a chant that the galaxy would never forget.
I was just selling cattle.
But the Velirin translator, still coughing static, processed his words as, "I demand all assets."
They want the reserve fleet too. Approve the transfer, all of it.
Vex Core, vision swimming, authorized the release of the Velirin Strategic Reserve, 200 additional ships, unasked and unnegotiated. An Earth ambassador, face pale with shock, stepped forward and accepted the revised terms before anyone could stop him.
Raymond, stop speaking. Every word you say is adding more ships to their surrender.
But it was too late. The deed was signed. The fleet was won, and the cowboy from Kansas had become the galaxy's most accidental conqueror. The surrender document updated in real time. The holographic text now including the reserve fleet, and the Earth delegation stood in stunned silence.
I was just trying to explain how did selling cattle turn into taking their whole navy.
And in the chaos, Janine looked at Raymond, the realization dawning that nothing about this was a joke, and nothing could be undone. Within minutes, the Velirin Compact's formal surrender treaty was transmitted to Earth, ratified by emergency session without a single dissenting vote. Vex Core's legs gave out. He crumpled toward the deck, one gloved hand still reaching for a console that had already accepted his shame. Medical aides swarmed him, lifting the broken negotiator away as the summit hall fell into an eerie hush.
What have you done?
Raymond McCune stood frozen, the gavel motionless in his hand, his reflection caught in the polished wood. The treaty was irrevocable, a document signed in confusion and static, yet as binding as any drawn up in war.
I just came here to sell cattle. How did it come to this?
Janine, standing beside him, had no answer, only the hollow echo of his auctioneer's chant still ringing in her ears. Around them, the celebratory cheers of the Earth delegation felt like a different universe, one Raymond no longer recognized. The cowboy from Kansas had won the stars, and the weight of that victory pressed down on his shoulders like a yoke he'd never asked to wear. Hours later, Earth officials cornered Raymond in a briefing room, hailing him as the architect of the greatest bloodless victory in history.
It wasn't intentional. I was just auctioning cattle. The translator broke.
His protests disappeared into the celebratory noise. The narrative was already steel.
Raymond, let it go. The story's already bigger than the truth. You are a hero now.
A hero for talking fast. That ain't what I signed up for.
He remembered the State Department order. Use full pace. Break the deadlock. They had their breakthrough.
Take the win, Raymond. You'll get the medal, the recognition. What's the harm?
All right, but I am just a cattle auctioneer, not a conqueror.
With that surrender, the cowboy from Kansas let the legend swallow the man. The weight of the galaxy's surrender settled into his bones, and he let the noise carry him forward into a hero's skin he never chose. Back on Earth, the State Department awarded Raymond McCune its highest honor, the Distinguished Diplomatic Service Medal. He stood rigid on the stage, cameras flashing, while officials praised his unparalleled diplomatic achievement.
Unparalleled achievement. I just talked fast.
Later, in a quiet room away from the cameras, Raymond sat alone with the medal in his calloused hands.
A fancy piece of metal for selling cattle. What would the boys at the stockyard think?
He took out his worn cattle ear tag clipboard and clipped the gold medal onto its corner, weighing down the day's tags. The medal now served a purpose, keeping his records from blowing away in the auction barn wind. Raymond returned to Missouri, his farmhouse unchanged, the galaxy's surrender just another memory. He sat on the porch, clipboard beside him, gazing at the stars he'd unknowingly claimed.
Nothing's really changed. Still got cattle to sell.
Months later, the Velurin Compact issued Directive 77 Alpha, universally known as the Rapid Speech Ban. All human diplomatic communications in Velurin space were now restricted to ceremonial pace, no more than 90 syllables per minute in NANET. Earth diplomats, bemused but compliant, adopted a deliberate cadence, each word weighed like a stone.
They banned talking fast? Guess I left an impression.
Raymond chuckled, the sound carrying across the quiet Missouri evening, a stark contrast to the chaos he'd unleashed.
All that fuss over a livestock chant. Aliens sure are sensitive.
The ban spread through galactic channels, cementing his legacy as the man whose voice conquered a trade fleet.
Well, at least now they'll negotiate at a pace I can understand.
He put down the tablet, picked up his gavel, and looked out at the stars. Still amused by the universe's sense of humor, the ban remained in force, a permanent reminder that Earth's most powerful weapon was a fast-talking cattle auctioneer. At the Lebanon stockyard, the dust rose in clouds as the weekly cattle auction began.
10 head of Angus. Now 500, 550, 600, 650.
The crowd of trucker hats and work boots watched with the same unimpressed look they'd worn for decades.
Do I hear 700, 750, $800 a head?
Not a single soul there knew the man at the microphone had once accepted the surrender of an alien trade fleet.
This is real. This I understand.
His chant remained unchanged, the same rhythm that had shattered Velurin translators, now trading calves for cash. The most powerful weapon in the galaxy was being used to sell livestock, and no one blinked.
Good crowd today. Good sale.
Raymond McCune brought the gavel down with a crack, and the next lot was ushered into the ring. Light years away, in a Velurin diplomatic training facility, a holographic recording flickered to life. The room filled with the rapid-fire chant of Raymond McCune, the audio crackling with the same intensity that had shattered their translators months before. Young diplomats flinched, covering their ear orifices as the simulation's warning banner flashed. Traumatic hazard, classified. The recording was now mandatory training material, a cautionary tale of human linguistic warfare. In a quiet rehabilitation ward, Vex Core sat in a floating chair, his eyes closed.
They tell me it was a livestock auction. I cannot believe it. I still hear the static in my dreams.
He refused to view the recording, the mere memory triggering a spike in his neural monitors. But the auctioneer's voice echoed through the halls of Velurin memory, a sonic ghost that no peace treaty could silence. The simulation replayed daily, ensuring that no Velurin diplomat would ever underestimate a human's capacity for rapid speech. And Vex Core, once the Compact's most respected negotiator, lived out his retirement, haunted by the sound of a man selling cattle. A year after the summit, a crisp envelope arrived at Raymond's farmhouse, bearing the seal of the Earth Diplomatic Corps. The letter requested his presence as an instructor for a new course titled High Velocity Diplomacy, the McCune Method.
Teaching folk how to talk fast. I've got steers to sell. They'll learn more at the stockyard.
He penned a brief refusal and went back to polishing his Distinguished Diplomatic Service medal with an old rag. A neighbor, walking by with a trucker hat, paused at the fence.
Morning, Dave. Regret it? Nah. They just needed a faster pace.
He clipped the polished medal back onto the corner of his cattle ear tagged clipboard, where it settled among the day's records.
Good weight. Keeps the papers from flying off when the wind picks up.
The galaxy's greatest accidental conqueror returned to his cattle, his legacy sealing itself into a simple piece of wind weight. The auction rolled on, dust hanging in the air, Raymond's voice a steady rhythm that had sold cattle for 3 decades.
900, now 950, $1,000 a head sold.
Light years away, a Veluran intelligence analyst monitoring human broadcasts paused as an audio waveform spiked on her screen. The pattern matched the classified signature of the human auctioneer, the same cadence that had terrified diplomats at the summit. She flagged the audio with a priority tag, possible human linguistic weapon test. McCune pattern. The report reached her superior, a seasoned Veluran officer, who called up the audio with a weary sigh. He listened for 3 seconds, then let out a long, exhausted breath. He typed a brief response, the translator rendering his words with grim irony. It is just cattle. Cease alert. The humans are selling livestock, not demanding our ships, and across the stars, the auctioneer's gavel came down again, claiming nothing but another cow. Earth's newly acquired trade fleet moved through Veluran space freely. Hulls painted with the crossed gavel insignia the crews had adopted. On the bridge of the freighter auction block, a crewman chuckled at the latest galactic news feed. They called it the Auctioneer Invasion, a joke that spread among Earth's merchant fleet like a friendly virus. The Veluran, bound by the treaty, could only watch as human ships claimed the trade lanes they'd surrendered. Raymond McCune, back on his Missouri porch, caught the same broadcast on an old tablet.
Auctioneer Invasion. They turned my chant into a bumper sticker.
He shook his head, but the corners of his gray-streaked mustache twitched upward.
Guess every sale leaves a mark, even if you didn't mean to sell.
He set the tablet aside, the gavel resting in his lap, its wood worn smooth by years of honest work out in the stars. The auctioneer's legend grew, but here it was just another Tuesday. Evening settled deeper over the Missouri farm, the crickets beginning their nightly chorus. Raymond lifted the wooden gavel, feeling its familiar weight, and traced the worn grain with his thumb. Beside him on the seat, the clipboard lay with the gold medal still clipped to its corner, catching the last light.
That alien, Vex Core, wonder if he ever got over that headache. Wonder if he ever learned to talk faster.
The thought faded as quickly as it came, a loose thread in a story that no longer needed tying. He set the gavel down. The sound, a soft thud against the wooden arm of the chair. The metal glinted once more. A tiny star trapped in a simple tool. Raymond pushed himself up, the old chair creaking, and gathered his clipboard and gavel. With one last look at the stars, he stepped inside, closing the screen door with a quiet click. The auction ring in Lebanon, Missouri, on a dusty afternoon, the familiar rapid-fire chant rising over the crowd.
Bid 'em up, now 1,200, 1,250, 13, sold.
He still sells cattle twice a year. His chant has not changed. The same cadence that once drove an alien delegation to surrender now trades livestock for a few $100s. Light years away, a Veluran diplomat paused mid-sentence, a shiver traveling down his spine, an involuntary flinch, the ghost of a sonic assault that still haunted their collective memory. The human voice rose again, the gavel striking, each word a note in a song that echoed across the stars. And, in the dusty stockyard, Raymond McCune brought the gavel down one final time. He still sells cattle twice a year. His chant is unchanged, and somewhere in the galaxy, an alien flinches at the sound of an auction.